If you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. And so if you're really taking the time to time what it takes to do a quality, not perfect, okay, we talked about that in the beginning today, not perfect report, but quality report, it probably takes you about 5 hours start to finish.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
All right, welcome everybody to the Appraiser Coach Podcast. My name is Dustin Harris. I am the Appraiser Coach. Appreciate you being on today. I want to talk a little bit about some discussion. We're going to call it that, politically correct. There's many other words I could use to describe what's going on online with regard to 48-hour appraisals. How dare they? I want to pause and remind you that we're sponsored by Alamode. Alamode, of course, is the software that I use to create 48-hour appraisals. Learn more by going to alamode.com, alamode.com. And of course, we're sponsored by OREP Insurance. OREP is my insurance of choice, my E&O. I've been with them for many, many years. You should be as well. OREP.org. That's, let me spell it for you. It's OREP.org. All right, folks, I want to address this head on because it is something that's going on in the quote unquote blogosphere, the internets, the interwebs, social media, you name it, right? And by the way, this is not a new thing. This is something that comes up pretty frequently. It happened as much during the volume rush over the last couple of years as it is now, right? This idea of speedy appraisals. And honestly, folks, before we even get into what's going on online, let me just back up for a second, because this is something that I have been criticized for, well, throughout my career. Right. One of the things that Dustin Harris, the Appraiser Coach, teaches, and one of the things that I mentor on, is this idea of efficiency. And by the way, folks, there is always a constant balance between the efficiency side and the quality side. Okay. Let me give you a real example of what I mean by this. Had an opportunity years ago to reach out to a colleague of mine. I've mentioned it before because he's a constant guest on this program, Mr. Tim Anderson. Tim provides a great service where he will take your reports, and I think I gave him 3 samples, and he went through them and basically said, listen, I've as an expert been a front seat to many of these state board investigations. So let me take that knowledge and that experience and translate it into looking at your reports and then giving you some suggestions on where you might be deficient, some things that you might be able to improve upon, some things that could probably be done that will give you a little bit better protection on the liability side if you will do this on your reports. And the experience was extremely valuable. And I hope Tim doesn't mind me sharing this conversation. It was a private conversation, but I think it's a good principle to share. In the follow-up, and one of the great things about Tim's service is he doesn't just take your report, trash it, and send it back to you. He takes your report, trashes it, and then has a conversation with you. And of course, I'm being facetious when I say trash it, but his whole goal is to say, hey, listen, here's the problems. And folks, I don't remember for sure, but what sticks in my head was like 6 pages worth of SHIT that he sent back, right? 6 pages where he basically says, you know, here's things you can improve on. And in the conversation that I had with my good friend Tim on a follow-up, I remember saying something to the effect of, Tim, let's be honest with each other. If I did every single one of these every single time, it would take me a full week to do one appraisal. And he goes, I know. He didn't even hesitate. I know. And I kind of chuckled and said, well, I got to run a business here, Tim. And he said, yeah, I know that too. My job is to tell you where the deficiencies are. My job is not to help you to become a better business owner. That's what you do, Dustin. Okay. So we had this conversation and we went a little bit deeper than that. And in the conversation, we basically agreed that it's impossible to have a perfect appraisal report. You've probably heard that before. Obviously, that's accurate. That's true. Every appraisal report that we turn in, everyone, 100% of the time, everyone has some type of deficiency. Now, it might be a sin of omission, something we left out that we should have put in there. It might be a sin of commission, something we put in there we probably shouldn't have put in there. It might be just a sin of, hey, you could have done a little bit better here. You could have described your process a little bit better. You could have explained a little bit better where your adjustments came from. You could have, ellipsis, fill in the blank, right? You could have, right? And in the end, you've got to find a balance between quality and efficiency. And in the end, you've got to run a business. And anybody that's doing a full week on one appraisal, my hat's off to you. Great. I'm glad you can do that. Right. But my guess is you're probably not doing a lot of mortgage work. My guess is that you probably are more focused on commercial, farm ranch, divorce, estate work, you name it, fill in the blank. And by the way, I have appraiser friends who I highly respect. My hat goes off. If I had a hat on right now, I would take it off and I would give you a hat tip, because the bottom line is if you are that type of that's not me. One of the reasons I did not go into commercial was because I have adult ADD. Now, I say that tongue in cheek. I'm not diagnosed, but I guarantee folks, if I went through the test with a qualified individual, they would come back and say, dude, you can't stay focused for more than 5 minutes. And the answer is, yeah, I know. That's why I have to have great assistants behind me to clean up my wake. Because I'm a speedboat and I turn directions all the time, and it makes people around me crazy, right? I'm just not one to work for a week and a half on one convenience store report, or one easement report. My thought process is much quicker than that, so I'm much more attuned to the residential side of things. Now, again, I know there's a bunch of you out there screaming and yelling, saying, "Well, Dustin, you should have just as good quality of the residential side. You still have to obey USPAP. You still have to do all these things. You still got to dot your I's and cross your T's." I get it, folks, and I'm just going to be bold. I'm just going to be honest here. I'm just going to say it the way it is. If you're doing that, you're not running a business. You're just there. It is impossible to do one appraisal a week and make a living at this. Okay. And you're probably suited for some other type of a job, maybe a reviewer, maybe an assessor's office. I don't know, whatever the case may be. You've got to decide what that looks like for you. I just know that for me, it looks different. For me, I feel like there has to be a balance between this efficiency side and quality side all of the time. Now, what does that mean? Can that get unbalanced at times? Absolutely. Can I become more efficient than, and I'm using air quotes, if you're on YouTube, you see it, if you're audio, you don't. Can I become more efficient when it comes to appraisal reports and sometimes forget or lose sight of the bigger, more, maybe even more important part of this, and that's the quality? For sure. Can I sometimes get so focused on quality that I look back at my bottom line and go, well, damn, I didn't make a bit of money on that. I made about $2 an hour with all the time that I spent. I certainly did not bid that correctly, right? Those things happen as well. But overall, you've got to find this balance between quality and efficiency. Okay. That being on the table, let's now talk about what's going on. And this is not new. When I say going on, it's not something that just started. This happens and has happened for my entire career, right? The naysayers out there who say you can't do a quality appraisal in a short amount of time. Specifically right now, what's in the blogosphere, on the internet, on the social media, has to do with a couple of AMCs, some lenders that are asking for assistance with what I'm going to call a new product. Certainly not new in the sense that, appraisal is appraisal, right? But they are pushing for these hybrid appraisals that are a 48-hour turn time. And by that, I mean, let's break that down into 2 days. Okay. So you accept it on Monday morning at 10 a.m., that report in its fullness after quality control checking it and everything and sending it out the door is going to be due back to the lender, back to the AMC on Wednesday at 10 a.m. You've got 48 hours to complete the appraisal. And of course, there's many appraisers out there just screaming and yelling that this isn't possible, that this is degrading our industry, that this is causing us to look foolish, that you know, by damn, if I'm going to fall into that trap, I'm an appraiser that cares about my work. Folks, great. So am I. And okay, it's okay to be a quality appraiser and also look at a product like this in a different light. I want to share that different light. I want to walk through the recipe for success on something like this without cutting quality. But I first want to pause and remind you of the great sponsors here. One of the things that I teach frequently, and we're going to talk about it a little bit after the break, is technology and the ability for technology to help you to be better at what you do, more efficient at what you do. Now, notice I said two things there: better and more efficient. I think you can do both, and I think A La Mode can help you to do that with their built-in technology tools, which allows you to keep the quality of your reports high without spending extra time. Find out more by going to their website, www.alamode.com. Again, www.alamode.com or 800-ALA-MODE. We are sponsored, of course, by OREP Insurance. And folks, I know that E&O is not something that you think about often. I just had a great mentor of mine who is an insurance business owner on my all-star team monthly meeting with the coach. It's an interactive meeting that we have together. And I had him on as a guest to talk about insurance, and not just E&O, but all of the insurance that appraisers should have. Liability insurance, general liability insurance, car insurance, auto insurance, health insurance, life insurance, you name it. We talked about it. And one thing that I came away from that meeting understanding even better than I did before was the importance of having a great broker who has your back. OREP is that for E&O. OREP.org. Again, OREP.org. And welcome back to the program, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out. We're talking a little bit about this quality efficiency balance, but more importantly, what's on the table is a lot of criticism out there right now when it comes to AMCs pushing a 48-hour turn time. Many appraisers look at that on the surface and say, you know what, that's a degrading of our industry. We're professionals. You can't expect us to have a product out the door from the time of inception to the time out the door, 48 hours. 2 days is not enough to create a quality appraisal report. Well, again, folks, if that is you and that is your attitude, turn it off, move on to something else. There's no reason to listen to this podcast any further than this. If, however, you have an open mind and are willing to maybe look at information and situations a little bit different than just your initial gut reaction, I would recommend that you keep listening, that we walk down this road together. Okay. I want to just read to you something that I wrote online in one of these social media forums, and this was a specific conversation that was going on about a specific company who is trying to create a product or find appraisers who would be willing to participate in a product that would be a 48-hour turn time. Okay, and there was a lot of criticism there. A lot of individuals jump on and say, well, this is a joke, and this company is a joke, and why would you ever work for a company that would require this, and blah blah blah. First of all, no company is requiring you to have a 48-hour turn time. They are offering you an opportunity to have a 48-hour turn time on a specific product that they have out there that they will walk you through the step-by-step on how to do. You need to now make a business decision on whether or not that is for you or not. Okay, now that's not the comment that I made. Here's the comment that I made. I said, serious question. How long does it take you to complete a quality appraisal? Notice I used the word quality appraisal. Okay, I did not just stop with appraisal. How long does it take you to complete a quality appraisal? Now, let me pause here for just a second and say, I am not asking how long it takes you in days to typically turn an appraisal around. I'm asking you, how long does it take you to complete a quality appraisal? I went on to say, quote, when I have surveyed appraisers, the answer is usually between 4 and 6 man hours. Now, folks, that is not a number that I've made up in my mind. I have had an opportunity to coach and mentor appraisers many, many, many years now. We get into the numbers. We specifically get into an experience that I sometimes take my clients through called the toggle experience. And the toggle experience is basically a week where you keep track of your time. And part of that can be how much time do you actually spend, man. In other words, this is not a scientific survey, but it's darn close. Like, I have actual numbers showing me that most appraisals, and we're talking cookie cutters here, every appraisal, every appraiser is going to have an exception to this. Well, Dustin, what if you show up and it's a 4,500 square foot on 30 acres and sitting on the river? You really think I can get that done in 4 to 6 man hours? No, folks, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the average turn time, average man hour time. Okay. By man, I mean women too. What is the typical turn time when you're actually working on the report? That doesn't mean the time that you're grabbing a grilled cheese sandwich for lunch. That does not mean the time that you're sleeping. Okay. Some people say, well, it takes me about five days to turn one around. Okay. Again, you worked on that 5 days times 24 hours? Hell no. No way. I'm talking about the actual man hours that you spend in the appraisal report. And yes, that includes scheduling. And yes, that includes drive time. And yes, that includes inspection time. And yes, that includes comp photo time. And that includes adjustment time and supporting your adjustment time and blah, 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 blah. I'm telling you, folks, now, whether it's good or bad or indifferent makes no difference. Most appraisers will report that they can produce a quality appraisal report in 4 to 6 man hours. So let's just call it 5. Let's average it out. Say it takes you 5 hours from start to finish to do an appraisal report. Back to my comment online. If that is the case, why is 48 hours in a low volume market so difficult to comprehend? Now, I will say this: the comments to follow underneath mine, I thought were pretty insightful and pretty perspective, meaning introspective. Sorry, meaning I think that my comment allowed people to step back and say, okay, wait a second. My gut reaction was, because I'm used to 2-week turn times, because I'm used to 5 to 7 business day turn times, to hear that there's a company out there that wants a 48-hour turn time. Oh my gosh, how could I possibly do that without cutting quality? By the way, that was my Bill Johnson voice. The bottom line here, folks, is this, right? If you really took the time to look at your numbers, and one of the things I'm famous for saying is, if you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business. And so if you're really taking the time to time what it takes to do a quality, not perfect, okay, we talked about that in the beginning today, not perfect report, but quality report, it probably takes you about 5 hours start to finish. So my question for you is, why can't you do it in 48 hours? Now, the comments to follow mine, again, I thought were insightful. And some people said, well, because that's not the only thing I'm doing. Hey, I get it. I get it, folks. But remember what I said in between commas is, I said, if that is the case, why is 48 hours, comma, in a low volume market, comma, so difficult to comprehend? The in a low volume market, I think, covered that question, right? We're not 2021 right now. We are 2022, or sorry, 2023. We are 2023. The interest rates have gone up and volume has dropped. Now, the same people that are on here complaining about the 48-hour purchase, 48-hour appraisal, are the same people typically that are complaining about, where's all the volume? Where's my appraisal work? How come the fax machine isn't ringing? Now, again, I don't want to dump on those people. That is not my goal here today, right? My goal is actually to open your eyes to something that could be broader. It's to open your eyes to something that could be different than what you would look at otherwise. Meaning, are you willing to open up your horizons? Are you willing to get past your initial emotional response to a company out there asking for appraisers who are willing to do a 48-hour turn time? Are you willing to not be that appraiser who sits and says, by damn, I don't get out of my chair for less than $600? And I've heard that multiple times as well. Same kind of a thing, right? You have this process that is as human beings, the brain works emotionally, and then the logic fills in the blank. Emotionally, you're going to say 48 hours. My gosh, how could you possibly do that? And then logically, you're going to say, well, I'm not going to do that. And I couldn't do that. And if I did that, I would have to cut corners. But when you start to step outside that box, and one thing a great coach will do for you is allow you to step back and say, hold on just a second. Your emotions are valid, but let's step back for just a moment and let's reconsider what your emotions mean, right? And is there a different way to look at this? Is there a way to poke the box? Is there a way to say, you know what? These 6 sides of this box that I'm in don't have to be the 6 sides that I look at all the time. And so we have an opportunity to step back and look at things differently. And my goal here today is to ask you, first of all, let me say what my goal is not. My goal is not in any way to encourage you to do this type of report. I am in no way a shill for this particular AMC. I am in no way supporting what they are promoting. I in no way get any kickback for any appraiser who starts to do that type of product. That has to be a business decision that you make, right? You have to decide whether that's for you or whether that's not for you. And I will tell you that for every appraiser, that experience is going to be a different experience. All I'm asking you to do is to sometimes step back and instead of complaining about the low volume, start to look for other opportunities. Maybe this is an opportunity. Maybe this is an opportunity that you didn't want to do in 2021, but you might want to do in 2023. And if you can look at this from a perspective of it takes about 5 man-hours to do a quality appraisal report, why then can't you do a 48-hour turn? Now, I know some of you are saying, well, still, Dustin, again, I get what you're saying. 48 hours minus 5 hours means I've got 43 hours of extra time in that, right? I need to sleep. I need to eat. I need to spend time with my significant other. I need to shovel the snow off of my neighbor's sidewalk. I need to fill in the blank, whatever that fill in the blank is. Okay. I get that you have a life to live, right? And this is not, I'm not in any way saying this would be easy, but the purpose of today's episode is to, number one, encourage you to think outside the box. But number two, give you a little bit of a recipe for success. And it all comes down to the 3 things that you've heard me talk about 1,000 times, right? Technology, human resources, and systems to put it all together. Folks, I will tell you that we regularly in my office, not exceptions, not once in a while, regularly have our appraisals turned around in 48 hours. Not even rush orders, folks. I'm talking about normal day-to-day business. If it is a quote unquote cookie cutter appraisal, if it is near our office, we have a system set up because we have technology, because we have human resources, and because we have the SOPs in process, that 48-hour turn times is not even really a stretch. We've had 24-hour turn times. We've had 12-hour turn times. Now, that's a bit of a stretch, I will be honest with you. But 48 hours, we really do not have to stretch very hard to get it. I will even go one step further and say this particular commentary and communication and comments online had to do with a specific company who was offering a desktop appraisal, folks. So we're not even talking about scheduling. We're not even talking about walkthrough. Now we can, and I've talked ad nauseum about desktops on this podcast. So that's not today's topic, whether or not you should or shouldn't do desktops, whether or not you can get adequate information, whether or not the people doing the inspections are adequately trained. That's a discussion that I've had 1,000 times. Okay. Today I'm talking about simply, can you produce a quality appraisal report in less than 48 hours and even adding, and you're not even required to do an inspection. No comp photos, no scheduling, no walkthrough, no measuring the house, no ANSI standards, none of that, folks. We're talking about the desk work, choosing comps, making adjustments, supporting those adjustments, telling the story, quality control checking it, and getting it out the door. Well, folks, I can promise you that I've worked with many, many clients that have helped them set up a process similar to mine, where we have the technology, things like Spark and Synapse, things like a la mode, right, in place that help us to be better. We have the human resources. the appraiser should not be doing the job that an assistant can do, right? Gathering the plat map should not be an appraiser's job. It shouldn't be. And as a consequence, if you've got people that are assisting you with gathering, verifying, and inputting data, then you as the appraiser can be the professional. I've talked here about the doctor's office analogy. The same is true here, right? The doctor should not be taking your blood pressure, should not be weighing you in, should not be greeting you at the door. That is the job for other professionals. Same is true for an appraisal process as well. Well, Dustin, we're slow. I can't afford people. Okay, folks, we're doing a pretty good business still. And the reason I think we're doing that is because we have people, because we have systems, because we have the technology. So can you create a quality appraisal report in 48 hours? I believe yes. Now, some people would look at my reports and say, well, that's not quality. You're cutting corners. Okay, fine, whatever. Folks, I guarantee I could look at any of your appraisal reports and say the same damn thing, right? We're always going to find deficiencies in each other's work, okay? But in the end, the question of whether it could be done is different than whether it should be done. I absolutely believe that it can be done. I believe that in our office, we do it on a regular basis. And I believe that you can set up a similar office. And then at that point, you can decide whether or not, as a business decision, the 48-hour turn time for an appraisal is for you. Thank you for joining me, folks. I talked about the monthly meeting with the coach. We do that every single month, where I have an opportunity to be online with you across the nation, and we talk about something that will bring value to your appraisal business. Hope you'll join us in the All-Star team. Find out more by going to theappraisercoach.com. Again, theappraisercoach.com. Thank you for joining me today, folks, and go create some value.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.